All right, good morning and welcome to In the Matrix. As you most likely know by now, the purpose of the show is to introduce you to the people, their insights, and their expertise to help us navigate the disciplines of money management, money mindset, and money motive. And for those of you who are familiar with the Matrix, it's when those three disciplines converge that we're finally able to master our money, even through COVID. So this is a special episode today, and a lot of us on the call here are business owners, or we work with business owners. And because of that, we have been taking a strong focus on helping business owners through COVID over the last couple of weeks. So today we have a very special guest, Lyn McGaughey. Lyn and I go way back to actually my very early introductions to Saskatchewan. Yeah. One of the very first people that I met who embraced me with arms wide open into this province in the world of entrepreneurship. And so I guess, Lyn, over the course of 10 years, right? Is it 10 years?
Wow.
I know.
Yes. It's crazy.
It's kind of in around there. You've changed roles a little bit, right? So I met you when you were with women entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan, loan portfolio manager, right? Helping entrepreneurs
Correct.
to get started, giving them access to money. And then your hat changed and you went to Great Western Life. And was that as a certified employee benefit specialist?
I was the regional manager for employee benefits.
Regional
and then
manager.
I worked and obtained the designation of certified employee benefits specialist.
Okay. And now you have your own consultancy, Eureka Consulting, helping employers navigate employee benefits, correct?
Correct.
So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I over the course of the last several weeks, I have to say the content and the information specifically related to employee benefits has just been, it's just been absorbed, 1,000-fold. People are hungry for this information.
Yes.
It's an extremely fluid time with lots of changes and lots of updates. And I happen to know, because we've had this conversation, you've gone above and beyond for today's call. So everybody on the call, this is chock full. So I am going to zipit.com, as my daughter would say. Lyn has lots of information here. Just a couple pieces to get us started. Lyn, you're licensed in both Alberta and Saskatchewan. And
I am.
The majority of the content is going to be provincially based for Saskatchewan.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
But when it comes to EI and, is it CERB? Is that how everybody's saying it? CERB.
Yes, CERB.
CERB.
CERB. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, those are federal programs, so those would apply, correct?
Correct.
And we talked a little bit about the audience this morning. So the audience primarily geared towards employers, but a lot of this information is going to be useful for employees to even help their employers navigate the landscape, right?
For sure. And to understand if they're part of an employee benefit plan, a lot of times employees they don't need to understand the workings of it. But right now, I think any education that both employees and the employers can gain about the options available through a benefits program are going to help everybody.
Beautiful. Okay. Now, just to kind of put a framework in place so people know how this call is going to go and why you're going to want to tune in. We're going to be talking about employee layoffs with and without pay, right? We're going to be talking about employee layoffs with and without benefits, as well as all of the government programs, the federal programs that we talked about, and some provincial programs. We're then going to move into reducing benefits, deferral of premiums, suspension of benefits, and termination of benefits. Right? So Correct. This is like chock block full. So that's it for me, Lyn, because this is you. I'm going to make sure that I catch questions as they come in, and if something kind of triggers, I'll let you know. But please help us navigate this crazy path of benefits right now.
I will do what I can. So good morning, everyone. And I want to start by thanking Tanya for organizing these sessions and the topics that, as she said, they're so relevant and important for entrepreneurs and employers at the best of times, but especially now. So again, just to reiterate what Tanya has already said, I'll be addressing the employee layoffs, options on how to reduce group benefits, the deferral of benefit premiums, what that looks like, and then suspension and termination of group benefit policies. And again, a conversation format. So please, as I'm speaking on the subject, post your questions. We can address it right away. I find that there's a lot of value in that. If you have a question, most likely a lot of other people do as well. So a quick couple of notes before we get started, and I am referring to my own notes, just so you know, I don't want to say something wrong. The government programs are changing constantly. So what I am going to be providing for information today is based on websites, and I'm going to be referring specifically to websites as I'm going through the conversation. But they are all subject to change. They could change this afternoon, tomorrow, next week. It's constant. The government is coming out with programs which, you know, we give them credit for. They are doing a lot very, very quickly, but a lot of it needs to be fine-tuned. There's lobbyists coming in that are wanting changes, and the government is listening and will implement some of those changes. And I already know that some of these programs, there are changes that are going to be coming out in the very near future. So just keep that in mind, that what I'm giving you today and what we answer, how we answer, is based on the information that we have right now. But the links that we're going to provide in the Q&A and in the materials afterwards should be referred to before you make any decisions at all. So that being said, I'm going to dive right in now to the guts. So the first piece is for anyone who is in Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan government's website provides great resources. They've actually created a business response team that is available for business owners and entrepreneurs to call in, and an email specifically for the situation that we're in right now. So the website, www.saskatchewan.ca. The business response team, the phone number is 1-844-800-8688, and they are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. And the email is support4business, all one word, at gov.sk.ca.
Lynn, can I jump in for a quick second?
Absolutely.
We're going to be sharing all of these resources online after, right? We've got all the links and the websites and the phone numbers. We've got it all. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in case anybody on the call is like scrambling to get that all down, just so you know, right after this call, we're going to post it all for you, so you've got access to it. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So programs for employers. We have a whole bunch of acronyms. So I will give you the acronym and then I'll give you what it actually stands for. So we start out with the Saskatchewan program, which is the SSBEP. This was just announced last week. It's the Saskatchewan Small Business Emergency Payment. And what this provides is 15% of the monthly sales revenue in either April of 2019, so last April, or February 2020. So you would look at your own business revenues and determine which one is going to provide you with the largest benefit. And that would be the month that you would use for your application. It is going to be a maximum of $5,000 per business. So if you have multiple businesses, then you are going to be able to apply multiple times, once for each of those businesses. And again, 15% of your monthly sales revenue up to a maximum of $5,000 per business. This money can be used for any purpose, and it's a grant. You do not have to repay this money. You have to have fewer than 500 employees, and you have to be carrying on business in Saskatchewan on February 29th, 2020. So February 29th of this year. If you were carrying on business, then that's one of the eligibility criteria that you would have met. And you have to have been ordered to close or significantly have had to curtail operations due to the emergency processes that the government put in place. So that's a highlight of the Saskatchewan Small Business Emergency Payment Program, and it was just announced last week. Applications are open as of yesterday.
And just a question, use of funds can be applied anywhere. It doesn't necessarily need to go to pay employees.
Nope.
Okay.
It can be used for anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next program is the BCAP. This is a federal program. It's the Business Credit Availability Program. Now, applications are not yet open. The government has said it'll be available mid-April. And what this does is the government is offering loan guarantees and co-lending programs for small and medium-sized enterprises. So what that's going to look like, we have to wait until the program actually is released and opened up, which mid-April, we're here. So I'm hoping that should be soon, but hard to say. And you're going to work with your local, whoever you bank with, either a bank or a credit union, will be handling these products. You'll be going in at a general level, you'll be applying for a loan and the government will be providing a guarantee. What that's actually going to look like, again, we're not sure. The next program is the CEBS, Canada Emergency Business Account. This is an interest-free loan up to $40,000, and it's available through your bank or credit union. Now, with this particular loan, if you repay it, and forgive me, I forget the actual date, but if you repay it early, then you could qualify for up to a $10,000 forgiveness. So should you apply and receive the full $40,000 interest-free loan, if you repay it by the deadline that's provided, you could essentially have full $10,000 forgiven, and you would only be repaying the $30,000. It will be interest-free the entire time, though, from what I've been told. Yeah, very. And again, it's a loan. It's something that's going to have to be repaid. But when you don't have access to cash, it's one way to obtain cash that at least is interest-free. And then we get into the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. This is the talk of the town right now because, again, this is one program. It started out with a 10% wage subsidy. Now we're at 75%. There have been so many reiterations of this particular program that it is really tough to stay on top of things. And again, this is one program that will continue to see changes as it's rolled out. So part of the emergency wage subsidy is 75%. So you have to have paid employees, or you have to have been paying your employees in order to obtain the subsidy. So this isn't money that you can get and then hire and pay. You have to have had them on payroll, pay them, you apply for the subsidy, you receive it. That's how the process works. Now, initially the 10% was made available, and you could apply for both. There's nothing stopping you from applying for both. But if you do qualify and receive money through the 10% subsidy, it will very likely reduce the amount that you receive through the 75% subsidy. Is that clear? Did I make that clear?
So you're picking one or the other. You're not picking both.
You could apply for both. You're not going to be penalized in any way should you do that.
Okay.
But you're not going to get ahead, generally. They say generally. So if you receive money through the 10% subsidy application process, and then you apply through the 75% wage subsidy process, then very likely the amount that you receive through the 75% wage subsidy is going to be reduced by whatever you would have received from the 10% subsidy process.
Okay. And can I ask, so in this world, I get a lot of business owners asking me, is this something I should be working with my bookkeeper on, my accountant on, or do I need an HR benefit specialist?
With this program, apply.
The owner should apply. The owner should be doing this stuff, taking ownership.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of these are through the CRA, their CRA account.
Okay.
So they're very likely the employer is the one who's doing it. If it's a larger business, then likely they're going to have a CFO or someone of that nature that works with the CRA accounts, and they should be applying.
Perfect.
So the idea being apply. Like you've got your different periods, and I'm going to just bear with me. I'm going to touch on the periods that are available here. Because you don't just apply for this once. You need to apply for each of the periods.
This is the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy that we're talking about. Okay.
Correct. So, and again, we will be posting these, but I want to give the information so that if there are questions, we can address them.
Yes.
And I'm just going to stop at this point before we dive in. or have there been any questions posted?
There haven't been questions, but I do know of one question in particular that if the person was on the call, they would be asking this. If the individual, if the employer actually reduces the hours, so the employee used to be at 40 hours per week, and now through COVID, they've gone down to 20 hours per week, is the 75% based on the 20 hours per week? Does it scale based on how many hours you're actually employing the individual?
It's a wage subsidy. So the 75% is going to be based on whatever you paid the employee, because we're working with historical numbers.
So it's pre-COVID. Okay.
So March 15th.
March 15th. Okay.
Yes. So that's the periods that we're talking about. So the claiming period for period 1 is March 15th to April 11th. And the required reduction in revenue is 15%. So through that claiming period, if the revenue of the business has reduced by 15% in either, and here's where the reference periods come into play. So you're going to look at your March 2020 revenues, and you're going to compare it to March 2019 revenues, or an average of January and February 2020.
Okay, so they're giving you two options. Okay.
Two options. I'll repeat that again. So the claiming period is March 15th to March 15th to April 11th. The required reduction in revenues is 15%, 1-5. The reference period for the eligibility is your March 2020 revenues compared to March 2019 revenues, or the average of January and February of 2020.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, once you make a selection, so once you apply and you choose your period of eligibility, either March 2019 or the average of January, February 2020, you have to maintain that reference point for your subsequent period applications.
And there's 4 periods, correct?
3.
There's only 3 periods that we can
3
apply
periods.
for. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So your first claiming period is March 15th to April 11th. Your second is April 12th to May 9th. And your third period is May 10th to June 6th.
Okay. So the question that we're getting here, what we're talking about, is that for the 75% wage subsidy or both the 75 and the 10%?
I'm speaking just to the 75%.
Just to the 75. Okay. Thank you for that question, Verna. Okay. Good clarification there. So then you're suggesting then for the next period, April 12th to whatever that date might be, if the employer has decided that that employee's hours are now going down to 20%, then that's when they would get 75% of 20 hours.
Yes. So the wage, it's a wage subsidy.
Yes.
So whatever the wages were, they are going to apply for 75% of whatever their payroll expense, basically.
For that period though?
For that period.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
So if you had, so as of March 15th, a lot of businesses weren't closed yet because things hadn't slammed, like some things had closed, but not everything. But after March 15th, that's when, like that next week, things were starting to just be locked right down.
Right.
So that March 15th to April 11th period, there'll be some payroll expenses for a lot of businesses, but throughout that period, it would have slowly reduced. So then the employer is going to look at that total period. So from March 15th to April 11th, what was their total payroll? What were the wages that they paid out? Okay. That's the amount that they are going to apply for 75% subsidy on.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Okay.
It does to me. I'm not seeing any other questions on that. So I think we're clear on that piece. And this, you need to keep reapplying, right?
Yes. Yes. So one of the key components here is that the required reduction in revenues in that period 1 is 15%. For period 2 and period 3, it actually increases to 30%.
Okay.
Yes. So that's key. So your period 2 again is April 12th to May 9th. And your required reduction in revenues is 30% now.
Okay.
And your reference period for eligibility is going to be, were you eligible in period 1? Or we go back to April 2020. So now we're working with the April 20, right? Because we're April
Yes.
12th to May 9th. So we're looking at April 2020 revenues. And you compare them to April 2019. Yeah, I know. Or still the average of January and February 2020. So if in period one, here's the thing, if in period one you chose to use your average of January and February 2020 as your reference point, you're going to maintain that for your applications in period two and period three.
That's your rubric going
Same.
forward. You don't
That's
get
your
to change
reference.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If in period one, you chose March of 2019 as your reference.
Yeah.
Now in each subsequent period, you're going to be using last year's month. So period two, you're looking at your April revenues. It's going to be April 2019 that you use as a reference for that 30% reduction.
So that's an important point, right? So however you choose to establish your benchmark and your eligibility, that is going to ripple into the next three application processes. You don't get to change it. You don't get to toggle the switch. So Verna had, I'm just reading through on her question here. So the other piece, when we're talking about eligibility of your, and the revenue, the revenue drop, is that completely different for the 10% as well? Or does that rubric still hold true for both the 10 and the 75? Or are they switching it up?
For the required reduction in order to be eligible?
Yeah.
Good question. Let me take that away.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I didn't worry too much about the 10% because why would you apply for 10% when you can get 75?
The sense that you're
it's a
making
good question.
out of, because I've been on those government sites and I've tried to wrap my head around it. So thank you for doing all of that, because you've simplified pages. Can you imagine how many people it took to like figure this out? It just
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
There's enough going on here. Okay, so that was the 75. Is there any reason why people would actually apply for the 10 instead of just going right forward to the 75?
No, not unless they're in some specific industry that they're aware of is being treated differently, where they would get 10% as well as 75%, which would mean an 85% overall wage subsidy.
Okay.
And those are going to be very few and far between. So in that instance, I would talk to an accountant if you think that there is some reason where you would want to do that.
Okay.
But
a question for you. Do you think, this is for incorporated businesses? Do you know if this applies to nonprofits or charities too, or
everybody, any type of business,
including sole proprietors? Oh no, sole proprietors wouldn't have employees, so we're okay there, right?
Well, a sole proprietor might. It just means that they're not incorporated and they're operating under a registered business name.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but they wouldn't be able to have employees as a sole proprietor, because these people need to be with source deductions, right? Like they need a pay stub. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
So these are going to be for incorporated businesses or joint ventures or nonprofits, but setting up a separate entity. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess the way to define that would be any business who has a payroll remittance, right? Where they're remitting payroll deductions into the government. If they are doing that, they're eligible to apply.
Okay. Gotcha. So I think we're getting a little bit of back and forth here. Verna's throwing in here that yes, sole proprietors can have wage earners. I'm not sure how that would work exactly.
But let's not go down there for the purpose of this call.
Beautiful.
If you are submitting payroll remittances, you're eligible to apply.
Beautiful. There you go.
Clean and simple.
Okay, let's move on.
Now, but that actually, and that brings us to the next point that I wanted to make, is part of this Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program includes 100% refund of employer remittances. So if you are remitting the EI, the CPP, anything besides the actual income tax, you are going to get a refund, and you're going to apply for that refund at the same time that you're applying for the wage subsidy.
Wow.
But it's important to note. So you continue to make those remittances, continue to pay them the way you would normally, and then you're going to apply for the refund in each of the periods that you're applying for the wage subsidy.
Wow. Very, and so yes, this is a subsidy. It's not a loan. It's completely forgivable, subsidy. Right? Not owed back. Okay, beautiful.
It's not owed back, but it is taxable.
Okay. Well,
so whatever you receive, you're going to get the cash flow in, but you are going to pay tax on that amount.
Okay.
But you don't have to pay it back
at the end of the year.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Everybody's tax situation is not going to be the way it is for 2019.
Okay. What do you have for us next there, Lynn? That was
The
great.
CERB. So now we're going to go
Oh,
into
yeah.
the Canada Emergency Response Benefit.
Okay.
And this program is available for employers as well as employees. So when it comes to, I have a little table here. So when it comes to the sole proprietor, if the revenue is at 100,000, this is current as of April 8th. So again, disclaimer. The CERB employment status, if they're not working because of COVID-19, so if they're in a business that's been shut down. So a good example would be your the sole proprietors that are out there doing our hair cutting, our estheticians, all of our paramedical service providers. So your chiropractors, massage therapists, when they were all told to shut down, if they were acting as a sole proprietor or as an employee, they're going to be eligible to apply for CERB. The other part of CERB is the fact that the individual needs to have earned $5,000 in the last 12 months or in 2019. So this is where a lot of I know my grandson was all excited. He was going to apply and get all this money. Well, he didn't earn $5,000. He's a student and he's working part-time. Yeah, I know I had to pop that balloon for him, but, but you have to have earned $5,000 in the last 12 months or in 2019.
And sorry, what was your comment about earning less than $100,000?
For a sole proprietor.
For sole proprietor, okay.
For a sole proprietor, yes.
If they earned more than $100,000 as a sole proprietor, they would not be eligible?
They had to have earned at least 100,000.
Oh, at least.
Is,
okay.
Yeah, is my interpretation of this.
Okay, sorry. So walk me through that again. They have to have earned more than 5,000
as an employee. So
as an employee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And then over $100,000 as a sole proprietor.
Yeah, the business, okay. As the business owner, the business would have had to have generated $100,000.
And is that for a fiscal or is that for a calendar? Do you know?
Well, a sole proprietor, it would have been, it's January to December.
It would have been, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Now, again, that's as of April 8th. And again, things are subject to change. I can see that this would be something that is probably going to be tweaked, but
okay.
That being said.
Sorry, Lynn, I think there was also some questions on this, and I know this is still very fluid, and I think they're looking at changing this. Probably April 8th, April 11th, the idea was that when you apply for CERB, then you were not eligible to, or you're not entitled to continue to bring in revenue. The idea is that no revenue happens in that time period, but I think they're revisiting that now, correct?
They are, for both employees and the sole proprietors.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned for that. So in the past, it was you can't be earning anything. Now they're looking at potentially modifying that to be a little bit more applicable to situations right now.
Yes, because they weren't wanting to penalize people for trying to be contributors to situations. Like they use the firemen as an example. Yeah. If you're in a small town, you need your firemen to be coming out with you if there's a fire. And if they worked for 10 hours, all of a sudden they wouldn't be eligible for any CERB benefit. And that just, they realized it's not fair and doesn't make sense. So again, there's just so many different parts of these programs that are being revisited and are all subject to change.
Okay. And we were talking a little bit too earlier that I think it was April 11th. It's all a blur now, but they announced that they're going to be verifying eligibility after the fact, right? So anybody who applies now will get access to the emergency funding, but then they will go back, they'll reconcile accounts, and they'll verify eligibility. So there will be a reconciling at some point, but to make sure people get access to the money, they're expediting that process and getting money into accounts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So the premise there, and actually that's a really good segue into the programs that are available for employees. So we'll go into the CERB aspect first. And with CERB, if you have any questions and I shouldn't say questions, if you're wondering if you're eligible or not, apply. Just apply. And worry about your eligibility afterwards. If you're in a position where you need the money or your employees need the money, tell them to apply. The money is being put into people's bank accounts extremely quickly. And if they don't apply and they're eligible, they're leaving money on the table that we all need extra money right now. It's the way, it's our world. Unless you're extremely wealthy, there's not too many of us that would not welcome an additional $2,000 in our bank account. So that being said, as Tanya said, there's no questions up front. You submit your information. There's no questions. The money's going to be put into your account. Now, afterwards, definitely, if it's found that you weren't actually eligible, you will end up repaying that money if you answer the questions honestly. So that if you just go through that process, answer honestly, odds are, and they say you're eligible, you're going to be eligible. So go through that process. Now, the next part is the EI. Like, do you apply for EI? Do you apply for CERB? So with that, and this is a big question. So when you're working with your employees, the first thing is EI. Bear with me here. So when you are completing the ROE for your employees that you have laid off, if they are not at work because they were either sick or they are being quarantined, so if they were a traveler and they came back, say they came back on March 18th. Well, now you're telling them they have to be away for 14. They can't be at work for 14 days. You're going to provide them with an ROE, and you're going to use the code D for illness or injury.
Can I just clarify? ROE is
Sure.
record of employment, correct?
Sorry.
Is that,
yes.
Just making sure. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Record of employment. Okay. Apologies.
Nope,
acronyms.
It's all good. This is your world.
So the record of employment, you are going to use code D, illness or injury. And that doesn't apply for instances just in the past. It could be now. You could have an employee that's working and all of a sudden is sick for whatever reason, and you just can't have them at work. You're going to provide them with an ROE right away, code of the D, and they're going to be able to apply then for CERB. Right?
Okay.
Like that's you have to have no income. That's the key. So if you're laying off people due to shortage of work, it's going to be the normal, the code A, shortage for work on your record of employment. But regardless, the ROE, if you're letting people go for whatever reason, you need to provide them with that record of employment right away, because that document is what allows them then to be eligible to apply for either the CERB or the EI program.
Okay.
And if you aren't familiar with how to complete the record of employment, that's where you would lean on your accountant or bookkeeper, whoever you have working with you on any aspects of your payroll or your bookkeeping.
Beautiful. So those codes are important, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Because it's going to indicate the reason, and the reason is going to impact the waiting period.
Gotcha.
So for employees that are laid off due to sickness or injury during this time frame, EI is waiving the waiting period.
Okay.
Okay.
That's helpful.
If it's shortage of work, then the normal waiting periods are going to be in place.
Can I ask, I remember one guest that we had in the Matrix was talking about, it was Ron Robichaux, and he was talking about the code that we use in the record of employment is also, it's important if we need to hire that person back. If it's a temporary layoff and we need to bring them back after COVID, there's a special code that we need to use. Is that ringing any bells for you or no?
No.
Okay.
No, outside my area of expertise, I'm afraid on that part.
Nope, it's all good. It's all good.
But again, I'm going to make a note because I'll follow up on that.
And he's a finance guy. He's a finance guy. He's not an HR guy. So I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it's, yeah. So
no.
Reference
he could very well be right.
I don't know, Verna, I think you were on that call. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you remember what that code was, feel free to throw that in here for subject of discussion. Okay.
Yes, because I'm taking this information right off of the government's website.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay. And like you said, that's our default, right? They're the precedent.
Yes.
So go there, get your info, and okay. All right.
Exactly. Now, the other program that I wanted to mention is a Saskatchewan program. So this is the Saskatchewan government, and it is called the SISP, Self-Isolation program.
Can I ask one quick question before we jump into Saskatchewan? I
For
know
sure.
that we had one question that came in from somebody on mat leave who was on mat leave before March 15th, and she's wondering now if she can also apply to CERB.
So no.
No.
Short answer, no. If you were already on EI, you had already lost your earnings, and so you would continue on the EI program.
And is that cutoff? Was that the 15th? It seems like
March
the 15th is a
March 15th.
Okay, so anything that happened before March 15th, that's kind of set in stone. After March 15th is where there's some room to maneuver and figure things out. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Sorry, Lynn. Okay.
Nope, that's okay. And I am just
SISP.
SISP. Yes. Nope, that's all right. Bouncing around. It's my world. So self-isolation program. This is available to Saskatchewan workers, and it is funds that are available to them, again, if they had to be off work due to self-isolation. So if they were traveling, came back, and they were forced to stay at home, they can apply for this program. And it is going to provide $450 per week, maximum of $900.
Sorry, maximum $900 for the entire program.
For the entire program,
Okay.
yeah. It's just to cover that 14-day self-isolation period that
Gotcha.
people were forced to go into when they returned from out of country.
And I'm assuming that is if you weren't getting paid. If that wasn't paid leave, if it was unpaid leave, you get access to that money.
That's right.
Okay.
And some employers were just saying, stay home, we're going to pay you.
Yes.
So you're not going to be eligible. It'll be for the employees that actually lost income.
Perfect.
They can apply.
Okay. Beautiful.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of many of these. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So we're good on the questions?
Yep, we are.
Okay.
Please
so now
feel free. Sorry, I'm just going to, I
worry.
know sometimes people are hesitant to ask questions. So just so you know, when you ask a question, you can ask it of just Lynn and I. It doesn't need to go out to the whole group if you're a little gun shy with respect to asking them. I often find when we turn the recording off, that's when everybody asks their questions in here. So I promise you, if you're thinking it, others are thinking it too. This is when we need to just kind of show up, ask, and support our community because others are thinking it too. So
that's right.
Yeah,
and your question might inspire someone else to be thinking, oh, right, I meant to ask this question, and it snowballs.
That's a really good point. It snowballs. Yes. Okay.
And I'm talking really fast, but I'm gonna just take a breather, let everybody kind of absorb things, and make sure that we're not missing any questions.
Take a sip of tea, a sip of water.
Yeah. Take a breath. Now we're gonna dive a little bit into the employee layoffs, which I've already touched on, the whole record of employment part. But sometimes employers will lay off employees with pay. So they just, for whatever reason, they don't want them at work, or maybe they don't want to lose them, but there's no work for them. So they're going to lay them off, but they're going to continue to pay them. So in that case, there's no record of employment that you need to complete because you're continuing to pay them. So there is no termination of termination of employment at that point. The employee will not be eligible for CERB, will not be eligible for EI, again, because they're getting their wages. And if there is an employee benefit plan in place, there is no change in the actual benefits that are available to the employee, with one exception. And that is if there is disability on the employee benefit plan and you lay off an employee and you're continuing to pay them, that means they're on the plan, but they're not actively at work. And you need to communicate with your insurance provider that they have been laid off on whatever date it was, and that it's a temporary layoff, and that benefits are continuing.
Okay.
But they're not actively at work. And the reason that impacts the disability is they'll still have coverage. So if something should happen while they're laid off and they become disabled, they can apply, but they're not going to be eligible to receive any disability benefit that they're entitled to until they would have been back actively at work. So here's an example. I'm working for an employer and they lay me off effective April 15th. They're continuing my pay. I have all my full benefits. They notify my provider, the insurance provider, that I'm laid off, but I'm continuing my benefits. And maybe they've told me, you know, we're going to bring you back June 15th. So that's fine and dandy. I'm walking down the stairs. I trip and fall because I'm a klutz, and I break my leg. So now I'm disabled, and we'll say that happened on May 15th. So now I'm entitled to disability. I've broken my leg, and we'll say I'm a waitress, and I need to be able to walk around in order to do my job. So when I apply, I'm going to be approved. We'll assume I'm approved for disability, but I'm not actually going to receive any benefits until after I would have been normally back at work on June 15th.
Okay.
Okay. So I still have that period of disability that I'm not going to receive any benefits for.
Okay. Okay.
And the key there is that if I'm disabled, the employer would only be paying me what they would normally have been paying me. So if I was entitled to sick days, or if I could have taken vacation days, but they're not going to pay me my regular wages because I'm not going to be able to work. Does that make sense?
I believe
You can't
so.
double dip. You
Yeah.
can't continue to earn money, right, and be disabled. So there's a whole process there. The key, though, is that with disability, you aren't entitled to benefits until you should have been actively at work.
Okay. That just brings up another question that triggered in my head. So if we are laying somebody off without salary, even if it's temporarily laying them off or permanently, we still have to pay out all of that vacation leave, right? There's still we still have that surge of anything that they've been paying into. All of that also has to go out, correct?
It can be.
Okay.
If you're thinking to bring them back, they may not want to be paid out, right?
Okay.
And so I'm not an expert on the payroll side of things and what that looks like. I just know that there's options. So I would, again, in that situation, just refer back to whoever you work with on the payroll side, right, when it comes to the deductions and vacation pay.
Okay. And one other question on this, I know there was, and again, maybe this isn't your area of expertise, so just say, nope, not my area. There was a lot of talk, especially around March 15th, that first week when everybody started shutting down, around wrongful dismissals and people saying you can't just lay people off. It's against the law, and be prepared for lawsuits. Any feedback on that?
Well, yes. And so I did work with employers that were in that situation. And when you are told to shut down, or the work is just gone and there is no work for your employees, then you can lay them off right away.
Okay.
It's going to be a temporary layoff in that situation. You can't terminate employees without either giving them notice or paying them out what they are due for notice.
Okay.
Okay. So again, depending on what the situation is, you absolutely, as an employer, you have the right to lay anybody off at any time. You just have to treat them properly according to the labor's laws.
Okay.
So
perfect. Okay.
All right. So one last thing on employee layoffs. When you lay off an employee, you can continue their benefits. So you lay off an employee, you're not paying them wages, but you can choose to continue their benefits. You can pay them yourself, or if you don't want to pay them yourself, you can give the employee the option to keep them and pay those premiums themselves, 100% of the premiums.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. How are we doing for time? Okay.
We are.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's great. These last few things, I think we got 15 minutes. Yeah, we should be good. So now we're talking strictly about employee benefit policies. So if you have an employee benefit plan in place, what are your options for reducing costs while maintaining the policy so that you don't lose everything? So a few of the things right now, you could remove dental and these are things that you can do on a temporary basis. So you would work with your advisor broker, look at reducing your costs, say, I want to reduce dental. So then you're going to send an amendment into your insurance carrier through your broker, and they will remove dental from your program. You can't go to a dentist right now unless it's an emergency. So odds are that your employees are going to be fine if you remove that benefit right now. You
Can
can
I,
also, oh yeah,
sorry,
go
can I
ahead.
ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Because I know when this first happened, I did that. I reached out to the insurance carriers. I won't mention any names. And they said, no, we're not doing anything at this time. No suspension, no deferral, no, and then I was actually extremely disappointed because I felt they were giving me a sales pitch saying, you know, if you decide to cancel or suspend, you're going to have to go through this process all over again at the beginning based on your medical history now. Now, maybe it was too early into COVID because they weren't even sure what was happening. I was on the phone for 2.5 hours trying to figure out what they were doing. And this is a major insurance carrier who's North America wide, but you're saying that that might have changed now, that insurance carriers should have policies in place.
Oh yeah, and quite honestly, when it comes to reducing benefits, this is something that you can do at any time. When you have a group plan in place, you're not married to the plan benefits that you have put in place. You can change them at any time. You don't need to wait for a renewal. It's complete, yeah. You can make changes at any time, improving or decreasing the benefits. So in this environment, you can choose to remove the dental. You can choose to remove your paramedicals, which again is your chiropractor, massage therapy. A lot of these are not available right now, although they are available virtually, some of them, and the insurance carriers are now providing, and I'm going to be very general because depending on your carrier, they've made different changes and tweaks to their own eligibility when it comes to the claims that they're going to reimburse. But realistically, if you want to keep a plan in place and you're wanting to reduce benefits, this is one of the ways that you can do it. So you can remove the paramed so that there is no benefit available. You're still going to have your health benefits. So you're still going to have your hospital coverage, your ambulance coverage, your prescription medication coverage. All of the rest of the things that go under health will still be there. You're just going to lose the paramedicals. Now, the other part is accidental dental is actually part of health. So if you remove your dental benefit and someone is, I don't know what they would be doing right now to have, they fall down the stairs. Normally I use hockey as an example if they get a puck in the, but that's not good right now. So if they fall down the stairs, they smash their teeth, that's accidental dental. They will still have coverage under the health portion of your employee benefit plan.
Okay. So sorry, just can I ask a question here? So Andrea, and I believe this is a question, Andrea is clarifying, you may not be able to change your benefit plan if you have committed to a contract, right? So I'm thinking there might be two different threads here between an individual benefit program or family benefit program and then a group benefit program.
So I'm talking group benefits.
We're talking group, because group you can toggle on and off all the time is what you're saying. It's very flexible with the group benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you still need to go through the process. There's still a process that needs to happen, but you do have that ability.
Okay.
So the contract, when you apply for a group benefit policy, it is a contract. But that contract is subject to change with 30 days notice on either side.
Okay.
So again, there's so many insurance providers out there and so many different nuances. I'm very willing, if you have one-on-one questions that you would like to run by me, please do so. If you have an employee benefit plan in place, you may have a broker or an advisor, hopefully you do, that put that plan in place for you. So that would be the notice period. Yeah, 30 days, 31 days is the industry standard. So just work with your advisor, broker, but again, just reach out to me at any time as well. Happy to help.
Thanks for the question, Andrea.
The other option that you can do to reduce benefits is by adding or increasing your co-insurance. So the co-insurance relates to the portion of the expense that goes through the plan compared to what the employee pays out of pocket. So for an example, let's use prescription drugs. So normally I recommend at least an 80% co-insurance. So the employee is going to pay 20% of that cost. The plan will pay 80. But in this kind of an environment, if an employer is saying, I can't afford that, then we could increase that co-insurance to 50 as an example. So 50% of that cost is going to come out of the employee's pocket. Now only 50% goes through the plan. And because you're reducing the benefit, then the premiums are also going to reduce.
Okay.
okay, as an option.
And these are things that, again, you can toggle on and off. So once COVID is over, it's easy to go back and just switch that back.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where the repricing comes into play.
Gotcha.
There's a deferral of premiums that most of the insurance carriers are offering. So if you don't want to make any changes to the plan, you want to keep everybody covered, but you don't have the cash flow right now, or you don't want to commit the cash flow to your premiums for your benefit plan, you can choose to defer it. So then again, it would just be a matter of working with your broker advisor and the insurance carrier to determine what that looks like for that particular insurance carrier. And that the premiums aren't going to go away, you're just deferring it, to be clear. You can suspend your policy. So this and suspension and termination. So they're very closely related, but they're different. So Tanya, to your example where it sounded like they were trying to upsell you and talk to you about the cost and the process to put a policy back in place should you terminate it, that's where you would suspend it. So a suspension of the policy removes all the benefits, so it acts like a termination, but the policy still stays available. So as you recall employees, you're just going to re-enroll them. Reinstate them is the correct terminology. You're going to reinstatement, they get enrolled back on the plan. There's no waiting period. Their benefits are going to kick in right away, and your premiums are going to start to accrue as of that enrollment date. So for a monthly premium where it's the 1st to the 30th, for an example, you are going to pay, and you pay premiums for the 1st of the month. If you enroll somebody on the 15th of the month, you're not going to pay premiums for that month. The premiums are going to start the 1st of the following month. So May 15th, you reinstate someone, they're on the plan. You're not going to pay premiums for May. You're going to start paying premiums for them in June.
Okay.
That's how a suspension works. Okay. So premiums go completely away, but nobody has benefits, and you start to pay premiums again as you reinstate employees. Termination of a policy is exactly that. It's gone. It's gone. You cannot add people. You can't do anything to it. It's gone. The premiums and the expense goes away, but so do the benefits. Now, when you're ready to put employees back onto the plan, that's where the work comes into play that you were told about, Tanya, where it becomes a whole quoting process and an application process, and that can take a couple of months to do.
Okay.
So it's, from a timeline perspective, it's not near as easy as a suspension, but for some it may be the option. So that road that they wish to go down. But I know, working with my clients, when they've wanted to terminate, we've gone to the suspension mode because they just needed the premiums to go away. They don't really want to eliminate the benefit policy altogether at this point.
Okay. So that's key, right? That is a key differentiation, probably starting with the suspension, unless, and hopefully this is not the case, the business is closing, right? And you're shutting your doors permanently, then that would be the termination.
Exactly.
There.
And you could go from a suspension to a termination without any kind of a penalty.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Well, Lyn, I don't know how you did it, but you did it, right? You covered all points in under
I talked really fast.
5 minutes. That was brilliant. Again, above and beyond, just so packed full of extremely important information. I find now, especially, it feels like the acute stress is dying down for a lot of entrepreneurs, but it is still overwhelming to try to find the information. And like you said, make sure it's timely, that it's accurate, and just trying to source it all and piece it all together, and then figuring out how to apply it. So I feel like today, Lyn, thank you. You've carved out this very specific path for people. Verna's chiming in here. Yeah, it is excellent. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Verna.
So you had mentioned several times that you are open if people need some extra support to help them navigate this for themselves and their business and their employees. I'm going to post your contact information again on the post so people can find that. Are there any are you taking new clients right now? Are you maxed out with new clients? Are you still open to that, or?
No, I'm open.
You're open? Okay.
I don't have to travel anymore.
There you go.
So yes,
Ah,
so yeah, no, I'm definitely able to accept new clients if anyone is looking for assistance, for sure.
okay, beautiful. Thank you. And it's interesting. Maybe it's my world where I'm always so focused on numbers, but this HR piece, I know a lot of business owners that the HR piece, especially the smaller businesses, usually just get bookkeepers to do it, right? And
Yeah.
bookkeepers aren't always fully aware of all of the intricacies associated with the benefit pieces specifically. So thank you. It's just
Exactly.
a whole other segment that's so important for us to take ownership of. So as always, I'm going to be posting this recording into the Epiphany website, so you'll get access to this. I will follow up with an email to everybody so that you've got that direct link. And I'm so mindful every time I touch my face now. I'm like, oh, I'm touching my face. Someone's going to give me demerit points every time I touch my nose or my ear. Um, and so I'll be posting the recording, so everything's there. I am just going to share with you that on Thursday in the Matrix, we have Audrey Vitelri, who is going to be actually sharing with us a step-by-step process. If you are interested in investing in the stock market now, I know there's a lot of Matrix members that are trying to figure out where would I even start, because it's somewhat challenging to find a financial advisor now, because typically you sit down in person, they get to know you. So she's going to give us here's how you would do it. If you've got $1,000, here's how you can start getting that money into the market, how you pick the stock, how you start the process. So it's kind of like an investing 101, and that will happen on Thursday. And then for those of you that are looking to build a budget to help you hold the course through COVID, actually launched on April 11th. It's the Stronghold Budget through Epiphany. So 3 steps where we start collecting all of our financial information as it pertains to our personal situation, our personal finances. And then we streamline our expenses, we optimize our existing resources, and then step 3 is where we look for access to additional funding. So everything that Lyn has talked about here with respect to EI and CERB, as well as some other revenue generating tips. So that's online now, and it's a pay what you can model, but really looking to help people stay financially fierce through COVID. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to get a handle on our numbers for once and for all, and hoping that you're going to seize that. So thank you again, Lyn. Again, just above and beyond, tons of value in here. I'm going to summarize some of that and get that out in nuggets and make sure that gets out on social media. Thank you all for being on the call this morning, and I will absolutely reach out to every single one of you, let you know where the recording is. And as Lyn mentioned, again, feel free to reach out to her directly if you're looking to navigate this space and take this to the next level for your employees. All right, everybody stay safe out there, stay strong, and stay financially fierce. Was it Hill Street Blues? Was that the name of the show?
Oh,
Where the
yeah.
lieutenant was, stay safe out
Stay
there,
safe out
whatever.
there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Dating myself there, whatever. I so don't care anymore. All right, so we'll turn the recording off. We'll see you in the Matrix again very soon, hopefully on Thursday. Be well, everybody.